Hey everybody, and welcome to this month's free CRM webinar. Today we're going to be covering chapter 10 from the CRM or Die book. If you haven't read it, no big deal. We're going to cover it for you. We've got everything you need to know right here. I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of Kearney Consulting. So excited for you to join us for this quick 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of Kearney Consulting. We are a CRM and data management consulting firm here for all of your data and CRM needs. We have a website that is chock full of free resources, including webinars like you're attending today, as well as articles, not just from us, but also from collaborators that are also fellow data nerds and those that support CRM. Definitely check out our resources page. And then we have a ton of events coming up. If you haven't purchased the book, feel free to scan that QR code that is on the page so that you can visit the website to purchase the book, check out sneak peeks of every chapter, look at book resources once you have purchased it. There's extra downloads that you can get access to, and then just spread the word. There is a free CRM assessment quiz that you can take quarter after quarter so that you can measure your CRM journey and look at your stats to see if you're increasing, what you need to work on, things like that. Now, the most important takeaway from the book is that CRM is not about a piece of technology, but rather about process and people. Now, the pieces of technology that you might use are there to support, but not be the center focus. They should support your processes that you put in place and support the people, your staff. We're going to cover the book in 4 parts: the foundation, preparation, utilization, and thriving. Now, this is our 10th webinar for the year, and we have covered the foundation, preparation, and utilization. Feel free to go back and watch some of those webinars. Today, we're getting into the thriving piece. But in review, let's look at the foundation. We covered how CRM focuses on process and people, understanding your firm's CRM and data why, the importance of a well-documented CRM process, and really any process, but looking at how your data flows through your business, things like that. Then in February, we looked at data-driven decision-making, why data is so important, how it should be looked at as an asset, what it really means to make data-driven decisions. Then in March, we looked at the benefits of CRM. These are just a few. Then we moved into preparation and we focused on business processes and 5 easy steps of how to process map. Then preparation is key, looking at change management, how to properly prepare. Even if you already have a CRM system, you have to set that foundation and get that preparation in place, where 90% of our effort is spent in that stage, and then 10% is spent on the execution. Then we've talked about evaluating and selecting. If you don't have a CRM system, then that is a really good chapter to look at, digging deep to know why you want it, why do you want it now, and how are you going to get it. Then we talked about utilization, implementing your vision, executing your vision, and then protecting that business intelligence. We talked about data stewardship, data roles, hygiene habits. What is your specific data utopia? How do you create it? Beginning with the end in mind, and then seeking out all of those data silos to break them down. Now, the webinar that you're attending today is focused on part 4, that thriving, enriching your vision. It's taking your CRM to the next level, not just implementing, not just maintaining, but really thriving. We're going to do that through auditing, streamlining, integrating, and then we're going to look at optimization, automation, and workflows. So again, we've already covered the first 3. Today is all about thriving. We're going to enrich the CRM vision. Now, we open up chapter 10 with a quote from Antonio that I love. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. This is such a strong and powerful quote if you give it time to sink in. So perfectionist, I happen to be one as well. We tend to look at things like, oh, can I add that to the executive summary? Can I add another call out box to this proposal? But really, what is perfection is when you take away all of the extras, all the fluff in the paragraph, and you're left with the meat. You're left with the gold. And that is when perfection is met. So it's definitely a different take to look at, but it's really key to how you take your CRM to the next level. Now, another way to look at your CRM is understanding that your CRM is not a destination, but rather it's a journey. It's a long-term commitment that you are on for your career. So with that, it's like a marriage. Looking at your CRM is something that you are committed to fully. You go through these relationship phases with your CRM. So it can feel a lot like developing a relationship. First, you have your wedding, your celebration. You've purchased a system, you're implementing a new process, you start onboarding yourself or other team members. And the first year using your CRM system and process is the honeymoon period, where everyone is still somewhat new, the users are still excited to get into the system, do what is expected of them. But after that honeymoon period, the hard work begins because it can go stagnant. The newness fades. The longer you have the system, the easier it is to take it for granted. It's there every day. It's there every morning when you wake up. It's there every night snoring in your bed when you go to sleep. It's easy to take it for granted. And then before you know it, you realize that 9 months has gone by and you haven't done anything new with the CRM. You've done nothing. So maybe it's time for something special or to jazz up the CRM process or system. Taking your CRM to the next level a year or more after implementation is very similar to trying to spice up your marriage. It takes work to keep things interesting. This is where the auditing and the automation, integration, those come into play so that you can take your CRM to the next level. The first thing you've got to do is prioritize, though. Before we can get to auditing, streamlining, all the rest of it, you've got to prioritize. So take notes today, but then you've got to prioritize which of those 4 you're going to focus on. Because we all know that a master of all is a master of none. You cannot do all the things all of the time and succeed. So you can focus on, I'm going to do the audit, and that's where I'm going to focus my time. And then once that's complete, I'll do this step. So don't try to do everything I'm about to share with you. Instead, prioritize and set your goals accordingly. Now, the first piece is looking for what is missing. And then we'll get into taking that away, like Antonio's quote talked about. But right now, we're going to see what is missing. We're going to do an audit. Just like if you get audited by the IRS, they're going to come in and ask a ton of questions. Why did you spend this? What is this for? This dollar and cents doesn't add up. You're going to do the same thing for your CRM. So you're going to do things like running reports to look at what is actually being used in your system. Are the long 100 value list, are maybe 50 of those not being used? And we can streamline those value lists. Looking at things like, if marketing sends an email campaign every month, does every contact have an email address? I say that over and over and over again, and hopefully you've taken the time to do that audit. Looking at, does every contact have an owner at the company? Does every employee have contacts in the system? Especially if they have any sort of external client-facing role in the company, their contacts should be in the CRM. So running reports by person in your firm that should have contacts in there. Maybe there's someone that hasn't imported their contacts yet. Doing an audit can help you find that. Are the records complete? Are there a handful of records that maybe are win opportunities that are missing data that's critical for your data flow? Maybe accounting has data that you're missing on your project records in your CRM. Looking at all of these is important to do on a regular, ongoing basis. Remember, it's not a destination, it's a journey. So this isn't a one-time audit, but something that you can do quarter over quarter, annually. But looking at, are your records being updated? Are they being updated timely? So things like how many new contacts every month. Now, I don't care if it's 2 contacts every month or 20 contacts or 200 contacts every month. What matters is it consistent? If you go from a steady 6 months of there's 20 new contacts and then all of a sudden there's 3 months of 2 new contacts, that should be a huge red flag that somebody or multiple somebodies have stopped using the system or an integration is broken. So you can monitor those things. That's what an audit really is making sure that your data is populated, it's accurate, and it's being utilized. Now let's move into streamlining. It's really about cutting away the fat, cutting away the things that are unnecessary, that are clogging up your records, that are clogging up the user interface. For example, if you go to create a new contact, are there 10 or 15 fields that are absolutely used, or are there 50 fields? I don't want to scroll through 50 fields, and this is what I do for a living. So really looking at every single record creation page to make sure that it's not overcrowded. You don't want to burn out your users. User retention, you've got to have things streamlined so that it's easy to read, it's easy to take in. So things like, hopefully your contact records aren't asking for pager numbers or faxes, things that just aren't being used. Sometimes we get in to do an audit and we look and there are fields for assistant name, assistant email, assistant phone number. Not everybody has assistants. Not everybody needs that. And quite honestly, those that do have assistants, most of the time they're just copied on the emails. So, or they read the person's email. Could that be put in the notes of that instead? So looking and running an audit report that says how many records have the assistant name, email, or phone number populated. If it's less than a handful, turn those fields off. Streamline, make the records just what's important. Don't collect data for data's sake. I know some of us get worried that I'd rather have it if it's not there. Well, I'd rather know it if it is out there. Use fields like comments or notes to create or to capture those one-offs instead of clogging up the screen with fields that are used maybe once in a blue moon. Do you require too many fields? Do people put in fake data just to get past the requirements? Can you play with maybe things that are required at creation versus things that are required upon update or further on in the process? Likewise, or on the other coin, is not enough required? Are you missing things like the email that absolutely have to be in the system? So play with those requirements. Are there new fields that should be turned off or turned on? CRM technology is always advancing. Now, sometimes the CRM platform or technology that you use isn't the best at communicating those new fields or those new features. So sometimes they might just pop up on the screen one day, even if you've had the technology for 10 years. You can control that, and hopefully you can turn it off if it's not something that you want to use. Or vice versa. Are you often checking those new feature reports or emails that come out to make sure that, oh, do we want to use that? So take ownership of that and make sure that your records stay streamlined. And then, do you have unused fields that should be turned off? A lot of that I already explained in the pager examples and things like that. Now we're going to look at integrating. At its core, the simplest explanation is that integration is connecting two systems. Now, the goal of this is to reduce duplicate data entry, streamlining your processes, making sure that information is accurate, and bringing alignment to two previously siloed systems. A great example of this is accounting. So accounting typically has an ERP system that they're tracking your employees' time, billing it like billable hours to projects, project information like the contract amount. Sometimes they do the start date or end date, looking at valuable information from a marketing perspective that you might want in your CRM system. So taking a look at what things could be integrated. Other examples are functionality that go hand in hand with CRM. I've already given the example of every contact should have an email address. Well, if that email address is living there, can we integrate it with whatever email platform tool we're using? So for example, a MailChimp, Constant Contact, My Emma. Can we push all of these emails over to that system? Now, when you're looking at the integrations, it's very important to map them, to understand field to field what is coming over. For example, when we put a new contact into our CRM, it automatically goes to MailChimp. That is our email platform tool. Now, we want to communicate to that person that they've been added to our email list and give them the opportunity to opt out if that's something that they want. Unsubscribe is always an option. So we take the opportunity to send a welcome email. Now, in the very first paragraph of that welcome email, we explain you've been added to our email because you have been in contact with someone at CKC. You have attended a session like today, an in-person session, but you've interacted with us in some way that we have added you to our CRM system, and now you will be receiving our emails. Feel free to opt out. Now, we don't want to just send them that email. We want to include a lot of resources. So we do that. We include articles, things that they might find interesting and helpful. So the idea behind integration, you want to reduce double data entry. My good friend and fellow colleague, consultant, Julie Schaefer, I love this quote from her: "That which has been typed," excuse me. Excuse me, Julie, you have a powerful quote, and I did not mean to sneeze in the middle of it. Let's start over. "That which has been typed should never be typed again." Amen, exclamation point. So looking at that idea is, where are you asking your users to double type things? Are they inputting things in accounting that then you ask for them again? Or is there something that they're entering on the pursuit side that could be pushed over to accounting? Even if it's in an email, the person on the other end in accounting can copy and paste that information over to the system. I know that there is accounting people who get skittish about not pushing directly into accounting. I get it. Copy and paste is way better than typing it, especially if you're a company that's still working with paper and things like that, where they have to try to decipher handwriting and then type things in. That's one of the biggest areas for error to occur. So looking at your business flow and how data moves throughout your firm, where are there places that you're asking users to double enter or double type things? Reducing that double entry is a great reason to integrate. Is your system ready for integration? I know that there are a ton of integrations that come with the CRM system that are out of the box, but the thing that you should ask yourself before you look at any of those is my firm ready for an integration? So there's 4 areas to kind of to investigate before you decide if you're ready. The first is the state of your data. What does that mean? The state of your data in both systems. So where you're pulling from and where you're pushing to, what does that look like? So for example, I gave the ERP from accounting to the CRM example. You could assume that accounting has things like start date, completion date, but is that accurate? 9 times out of 10, when I ask accounting, hey, I see that there's a start date here, they go, oh, that's just the date that we entered it. I don't know when the project started. Oh, then that's not helpful. That's not a date that I actually want. So let's not map that. Let's not include that in the integration. Or the completion date. And they go, oh, that is a fictitious date that we just guess at when we enter it into accounting. Like, we have no idea when the project completes. then let's not map that. Do not bring that over. I want trusted, reliable information. So asking that question, looking at the state of data, you also want to know how populated is that field before I bring it over, because any field that you bring over to the new system into your CRM is going to be owned by that integration, meaning depending on how the flow works, it could override it every night. So you want to understand, am I overriding it with blank data because 1 out of 100 records is actually populated in the accounting system? So understanding the state of data on both sides. What does it mean to them? What are we actually looking for? And then you've got your flow of data between the systems. So is this going to be a one direction from accounting to CRM? And that accounting is going to own those fields, so every night at midnight they override? Or is it 2 directions? So this data moves from accounting over here, and then pursuit data moves from CRM over to accounting. Is it one direction based on the type of data? Is it bi-directional, where company data is flowing from both? All of that matters, especially when you're looking at types of data that you're going to be transferring and that are going to be flowing. It's always safer to err on the side of simplicity rather than bring over a ton that you have to try to monitor. So if you can do it in phases where you bring over a small set of data, make sure it's working, then move on to more data, that would be great. But really understanding the types of data, as in shared value list or things like company name. So we all know that accounting typically goes by what the contract states. So by the contract of the project, it might be contractual to say it goes by Radio Shack, Inc., period. But in your CRM, everybody knows it as just Radio Shack. Well, those are not the same thing from a ones and zeros data perspective. So you have to understand, is it going to move that into the existing Radio Shack, or is it going to create a whole nother record on your CRM side? How do you merge those? Can you merge them in a way that it'll continue to point to the correct record, or will it create it over and over again? So you want to make sure that you understand how the data flows, what types of data, understanding shared value list. So if there's a value list in the ERP side, maybe contract type. You want to make sure that it matches exactly, because if they call it GMP, but on this side you call it GMP Max, those are 2 different things and they're not going to match up. So making sure that all of that is connected. And then finally, looking at the type of integration. Now, there's API, SQL, data warehouse, data lakes, list goes on and on and on, and is often changing. New technology comes out and we have yet another type of integration. What you need to know is, what does your system over here offer? What does your CRM offer or accept? Are there fees that are associated with some, or are some free and come with your license? Now, there are also third-party solutions on the market that are designed to help you connect. Wakado is one. Looking at things like Microsoft Power Automate, Zapier. These are tools that you can say, I use MailChimp and I use this for my CRM, connect them. You can pick the fields that you want to connect and you're good to go. So looking what is out there, the type of integration that both your systems already offer, what are the fees associated, and then what's already out there, either in third party or built-in integrations. So I know some of the major CRMs have built-in integrations where they can already push data to something like a HubSpot or push data to a MailChimp. So looking at what's built into your system is helpful as well. Now we move on to where my eyes will sparkle. I love talking about automating. I love thinking about, how can I help my users? How can I improve the accuracy of my CRM system or my CRM process? At its core, automation is about cause and effect. It is about creating something to happen automatically. So when a user does X, I want the system to do Y. On the next slide, I'm going to share a ton of examples, but these are just meant to be sparks so that you can go think about what's best for your system. This is by no means an extensive list, but rather it's just to give you some ideas. Now, most automations are done through things called workflows. So one of the things to think about is how your users work and how you can integrate into that flow. So for example, if your users are in Outlook day in and day out, does your CRM have an Outlook plugin or an add-in so that your users can just go ahead and update contacts right there from Outlook? Those things are great to automate because they're built in, they're vetted, they're great resources. Now, looking at workflows, they're typically triggers that send notification emails, triggers that populate things, triggers that calculate things for you. So one of the common notifications, when a record meets a specific requirement, send an email. So when a record is $100,000 or more, the go, no go score is 75% or higher, send it to our go, no go leadership team to decide if, yes, this is approved to put time and resources towards. If a record is in this geographic region, send it to these offices. All these are things that you can set cause and effect for. Now, you can also do it to help with your data integrity. If the record is missing a piece of data, we know at stage proposal submitted, we should have the estimated selection date. If that date is missing, send an email. Hey, when is the estimated selection date? Because we know that things are based off of that. We knew that triggers are based off of that. If you're doing workflow projections on any of your dashboards, if the record does not have an estimated start date, all of that will fall apart. If you're doing any sort of revenue projection, it will fall apart. So send an email if the start date isn't populated. Now, you might be saying, Courtney, earlier you talked about required fields. Why don't you just require the start date? We know that in our industry, some of our pursuits take years of tracking. 2 years is a lot of time to acquire information and for the client to figure things out. So at the very early stages of the long lead pursuit or the rumors, whatever you call it, those might not know the start date. You would be taking a wild guess. So it might not be appropriate to require it at that point. But when the proposal is submitted, you sure know the start date. So looking at either requiring it at different phases or different stages of the pursuit, or do we just monitor it with things like a workflow where you say, hey, I see that your opportunity got changed to proposal submitted or in proposal in progress. We need a start date. Looking at set actions. So these are things like, if this field equals this, do this. One of the perfect examples in our system, I am notorious for forgetting to fill out the region. I fill out the state because it's usually on the business card, but I just skip past that region. And in our system, there's no way to require a region. But when I go speak at other events, we want to either see clients that are in that region, invite them to attend that event. So region is really important to our marketing. So what we did is we set some set action workflows that if the state equals this, this is the region. If the state equals Texas, South is the region. So making sure that you have those things that fall in behind your user. Another example, we have a client who tracks the commissioning fee on the proposals. So when commissioning fee is populated and has a value, the service type gets added for commissioning. They were having it where people would fill in the fee, but they would forget to tag it as commissioning for the service and add it. It's a multi-select field. So then it wouldn't show up on the widgets. And they're like, oh, well, we have the dollar value. Why isn't it on this widget? There's no way on the dashboard to look at those and say, if this field is populated, submit it. No, but the service type is a filter option. So they put that as a workflow where if this field is populated, select this as the service. Another example, looking at it by certain dollar amounts. If we have a pursuit that is over this threshold, these certain fields are required. We don't really care about bonding capacity if it's below X dollars amount, but we do if it's over. So making those things required, those are set actions. And then you can look at custom calculation. Now, this is far into your CRM journey, but it's fun to play with. So things like a go, no go score can be calculated based off of your answers. So if this is a repeat client, a higher score. If this is a brand new client, lower score. If this is a certain contract type, that can get a score. If this is a known entity that we've been chasing, whatever those answers are, you can score them and get that custom calculation. Now, you can find ways to automate and cut out that duplicate effort. Just review your process documentation. If you don't have that, go back and watch that webinar of how to do that. And remove the need for staff members to copy and paste the same information or to enter it in multiple places, and just have one single system that pushes it to the different systems where that information is necessary. Looking at streamlining data with when, pursuits are won. Does that information need to be emailed out to accounting and IT and all of the other operations, all the other departments? When transferring new contact information, should it go to other departments or other technologies? When contacts are updated, should the owners find out so that if somebody else updated them, maybe they've moved companies, other people might need to know that information. Looking at all of those are those triggers that you can potentially build an automation off of. Now, in review, we have talked about a lot, but focused on enriching your CRM, taking it to the next level through auditing, streamlining, integrating, and automating. Did I say auditing or automating? Those are so close together. Understanding the relationship phases of your CRM journey or your CRM marriage, whichever way you want to look at it. The importance of prioritizing. You cannot do all four at the same time. You've got to focus and you've got to prioritize. And then remember Antonio's quote, perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add or nothing more to do, but rather when there's nothing left to take away. This is your year. This is your moment. Take control and act and put your CRM vision to the next level. We have a quarterly webinar that if this really resonated with you, we do a full in-depth 2 hours with hands-on workshops. If you want to talk about this further, join us next Thursday, October 20th, 1 to 1:30, to discuss all of Chapter 10 and enriching your CRM and thriving on our free CRM chat. As always, thank you so much for attending. I appreciate your time.